Buddy, it is Brian Travilla with LRG, and I'm delighted today to talk to you about wireless solutions and, more importantly, wireless support. I have Chris Kolar on, the Chief Executive Officer of Wireless Support, and we're going to talk a little bit about wireless in 2026. So, Chris, I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are and what's wireless support about, and we'll dig in from there. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great, Brian. It's really good to be here with you. And so, as you said, I'm the CEO, owner, and operator of Wireless Support. And in plain terms, like we're basically a wireless department for delivery and field businesses that don't have one. So it's the phones, the plans, the carrier bills, the repairs, just kind of all handled so that owners can focus on running their business and not on dealing with carriers and phones and devices. So we do this for roughly 400 or so businesses across the United States, and yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Well, that's exciting. I think you might be the first person that I've met that has bought a cellular company. I mean, because when I think cellular, Chris, I think of the big players, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. And I mean, share with me what made you buy a wireless company? I'm curious.
Yeah, good question. So I actually came up as an engineer, but not a network engineer. I was a chemical engineer by background and working in oil and gas. And um, I kind of had this entrepreneurial bug. I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And at the time, oil and gas companies were still paying for MBAs. So I went out, got an MBA on the company, and I thought I would start my own business. I was sure
Mhm.
of it, right? I would meet somebody, we would come up with some great idea, and we'd start this business. But I think I had the misconception that you needed to have like $1 billion idea that was completely novel, right, to start a company. And I never like had that big of an idea. But then I learned about buying businesses instead of, starting from scratch. And I just
Mhm.
loved how that like flipped the risk paradigm. So instead of taking all this risk and throwing everything to start from scratch, you can buy something that's already got a customer base, kind of a proven business model. And so I searched for a couple years, ended up finding wireless support, and I was like, oh, this is it, right? It's this
All
great
right.
foundation of a wireless company, right? In a world, and this was like early pandemic, right? We're talking 2022. So we have this increasingly mobile world, and right, like it's no surprise you walk around and everybody is just glued to their phones these days. So I'm like, okay, this is
Sadly.
a great,
Sadly.
right, even too much.
Yeah.
Um, but so, it's a chance to take advantage of that trend, and it's helping, these kind of small to mid-sized businesses out with wireless. Because let's be honest, like who wants to be on the phone, customer support with one of the big carriers? So
Been there, done that. Can't say I enjoyed it.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So it seemed like a really good platform, and I thought I could actually come in and add unique value because at the time the company didn't have a good org design, good process, good systems. So it needed that kind of like MBA engineer to come in, restructure things, and they just have a vision to grow it and help the businesses that really need more support. So it's been almost 4 years now running the business, and I've learned see a ton since then. But I come at it from a different angle, right? I'm not coming at it like the typical phone guy who's been in the industry forever. I come at it from, an owner operator perspective where it's, what's the value that we can provide to the overall business.
You're right. So let's I've been in many last mile warehouses, and I've always seen just a a gathering of cell phones in a corner. There's the boxes, cell phones. I've worked in consumer electronics for years, so I'm aware of the cost. They're not cheap. I mean, let's just face it, it's a very advanced device no matter what kind you have. When I see just piles of phones, and I've asked some company owners, hey, what's going on with all those cell phones? Oh, those are either extras or they don't work. Have you ever encountered that with your business model? And what advice would you give to an owner operator if if they start seeing a pile of phones in a corner.
Yes, absolutely. I've seen it, time and time again. And I think it's super common, right? Like you have somebody that leaves, or you have turnover, or you have a broken device, and you can't deal with it right then. So where does it go? It goes in the desk drawer, it goes in
Yep.
the pile, right? And it just stacks up. And I think overall, the thing that I see so many, people kind of make a mistake on is they treat all of that as a one-off. So they actually let it get to the spot where the pile has to get big enough that it's a
Mm,
problem for the organization until they deal with it, right? Once it actually becomes a pain point, they get in, they spend the time, they fix the problem, right? They get the things repaired that need to be repaired, they get rid of the old ones that, aren't going to work anymore. And then they say, all right, I'm good, right? But then what happens? It just continues to slide and it builds and it gets worse. And so they have this issue where it's just this curve of like building to a problem, okay, it's better. Building to a problem, it's better, instead of treating it the way it should be, which is let's get a system in place, right?
mm.
A system to manage this so it just stays in a good spot all the time.
That's a big one. So is that a service you would provide a owner operator, a Amazon DSP or a FedEx ISP or an independent carrier? Is that something that you guys could help them with?
Absolutely. Um, you know, I think as I step back, and one of the things that I've learned, from running my own business, right, and having to do it on this side is more and more it's like business ownership and scaling businesses is about being systems builders,
Mm,
right? You have to have a specific person following a prescribed method or process to get some kind of desired result. And if you can do that across your business, right, you're likely to be successful and it's going to grow and it's going to operate well. So we've tried to build that on the wireless side, right, for phones and tablets. And it's I think one of the tricky things is that there's just so many components to it. Like
mm.
when you step back, and you just look at it at surface level, you're like, oh, it's just phones and tablets, right? And some carrier lines. But when you pull it apart, you got, well, there's device and accessory procurement. There's the rate plans and promotions for the carriers, which let's be honest, like those are changing constantly,
All the
right?
time.
You have the device setup, right? When you get new devices, you have device policy and enforcement, right? Which is like, how do you restrict it so people are doing just what you want with the devices? And, device A and device C are exactly the same. It's not like everyone's different. You have device repairs, you have issues and technical troubleshooting, you have devices that are aging on you. And then you have the carriers, right? There's billing issues, there's contract management. So once you start like breaking it down, there's just a lot of components. So we really try to do just that. We try to handle all those things, one stop, one system to help, whether it's a DSP or an independent carrier, FedEx, whoever it is, to just manage that consistently, really as a service.
So you take a lot of rocks out of the backpack for an owner operator when it comes to devices, which let's face it, devices, people, and vans are one of the critical things you need. You can't do one without the other. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One thing I was checking out with your company that's kind of interesting is the customer support. A lot of the big carriers offer, I think, only 5 days support, Monday through Friday. And from what I understand, is you guys are available up to 7 days a week, like every day. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And the carriers are all a little different in terms of their hours and which group you can reach on which day,
Yep.
right? And so they'll have different tiers and levels. And I mean, we've all been in the game where you get transferred from one
Oh,
department to the next to the next. And it's not like they share the context or tell you, what they
no.
already tried. It's starting from scratch every
So true.
transfer.
You gotta like that's really I just have to hit on that because that could be like some low trauma for me. You tell that person the whole story and what you're there for, and they're like, great, wrong department. Here you go. And you're like, what do you mean? I have to tell you the entire story again. They're like, yeah, and then you transfer it again. All right, that was a little cathartic for me. I just had to get that out.
Yes, we've all experienced it. We've all been there for sure. Um, so So on our side, again, we're built to have premium service and support. And so it is 7 days a week. And so if you're on the East Coast right now, it's 8 to 8. Um, and the and it's 7 days a week, right? So we know that the businesses that we support are operating every day of the week, and
Yep,
so we need to be there to support them, right? And you're not going to get transferred around. You're not going to wait on hold. You're going to reach a human being who's going to help try to solve your problem right there.
I love that. That's a big feature. And just a couple more questions for you. If I was a new owner operator or even a seasoned one, what's one of the things that you're most proud of that would make me want to do business with wireless support versus, anybody else that's probably sending me a million emails soliciting for wireless phones?
Yeah, and I think there's a few things there. I think, the first thing, and it's going to go a little bit back to this overall system. Most of the people that are out there that are selling wireless, whether they're from the carrier or they're an independent company that's reselling the carrier services, um, they're out there trying to get you to add lines, switch carriers. It's about the upfront sale, and there
Hmm.
might be a little bit of support that's there. That's just materially different than what we do, right? We are, that's a small piece of it, but we're really about that ongoing support because we want to be there, to be a partner day in, day out, week in, week out. And so that's a big difference for us than the other folks that are out there. And it does go back to that support, right? Our goal is to be there, premium support, premium partner all the time. And that's what we try to differentiate ourselves on. And then I think the last thing is on our side, we do try to make it really easy to do business with us. And upfront, happy to do a free bill audit, look at where you're at, both with the carrier side, your devices, as well as just how you're managing it, right? What is your system? And could you use help there? And we'll look at all that stuff for you. We'll bring some cost savings to the table because the vast majority of time we find 10 to 30% savings
Wow.
on wireless for the customers that we do bill audits for. So it's really easy, no obligation to just get started and have a conversation.
That's a big one. I want to put a pin in that one. So you mentioned a free bill audit that, wireless support team will go through your plan, your devices, and this is the big one, your processes. So we don't have those peaks and valleys of mountains of old cell phones. Because let's face it, that's cost and profit erosion if you're just letting stuff pile up like that. That's a big selling point. So I had to make sure I emphasize that. All right, Chris, we got one more question for you.
Sure.
Tell me something great and exciting going on in wireless that you're really jazzed about.
Yeah. So I think on the future of wireless, right, I, I think the exciting thing is that we're coming out of this phase where it is really just this competition amongst the big three here in the States, right? AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. And now you're starting to have this new frontier of satellite,
Yeah.
right? And so you're seeing the carriers, those traditional carriers are incorporating satellite into their offerings. But I think you're also going to start to see satellite only kind of providers that are out there, right? We already know Starlink's out there and they're clearly doing internet, right? For homes and whatnot. So there's definitely potential for
Mhm.
cellular data, and right now it's very limited. So the carriers talk about it, but that cellular data is low data usage, right? So kind of low capacity for just a few select apps plus text messaging. So you look at businesses, right, especially like logistics and transportation companies that need heavy data usage for constant routing. Doesn't work today, but 6 months, a year, 2 years, right? It's going to be heavy data use applications
Mhm.
and it's going to be everywhere. So as long as you've got a view to the sky, you're going to be able to get data. And I know that's big for people that are driving cross country,
Yeah.
dealing with rural areas. So I'm excited about satellite and also just how that is going to bring new entrants to the market and
Hmm.
start driving more competition. I think it's going to be really exciting over the next few years.
Well, that brings us forward to back in the day where I used to have to buy a pack of text messages every month with my cell phone plan. So satellite cell phones, you never know what's around the corner. Chris, can't thank you enough for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And everyone, this again is Chris Kolar, the CEO and owner of Wireless Support. So as you work with LRG, Wireless Support is a fantastic vendor that we work with. So make sure you talk with us more and we'll connect you with Chris. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. This has been great. Appreciate
You
it.
bet.